Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hi, everyone. That was a desperate Ted. Hi, everyone. Please watch my Wizards. Hi, everyone.
I thought you were going to get into his defending taking the overseas money.
I haven't seen that. What are you talking about?
As you can tell, we show prep really hard on this show.
What are you talking about? When did that happen?
The Post did a whole entire write-up this morning about how he defended taking the money. And he said that everyone's going to start doing this. So everyone's business models are going to start going that route.
I have not seen or I've been in Commander Land, so I have not seen or read this, and I will during a break.
Yep. And
at 4:00 we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Sorry for not being prepared today. I've been caught up in pandemonium and Commander Land. I'm starting with the Pandas.
Literally pandemonium.
Yeah.
You'll read it in the story, but he also, talks about Josh Harris and said it took 20 people to buy the Commanders. People don't have cash. This is going to help solve some of that.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, it was also, and I won't ruin a lot of it because we're going to talk about it in an hour, but he basically said, yeah, it's nice when Forbes comes out and tells me the Capitals are worth I'm just going to say $1 billion, but then all my investors come to me and say, oh, you're worth that much. Where's our cash? And that
because okay, let's say I own a piece of art, and they tell me that piece of art is worth $1 million.
That's right.
And there was a investor in it with me, and they want $500,000. I don't have $500,000 unless I sell the art.
Right, correct. But he's saying there are partners that
a couple of these people don't know this. Does he think we're dumb?
But if people want to cash out, he was saying that's why they needed to take it. That's
if
why.
People want to cash out.
He also, I'm trying not to knock Ted too much here. He did the whole, they're just investors with money. They have nothing to do with telling us what to do. And I was kind of like,
I got to read this.
If something happens, man, you're not just going to knock what happened. Because it was like,
I'll give him credit for at least talking about it.
Finally. It's been a while.
Well, but I bet you how many people asked. How many people have asked?
Right.
We're in a media environment where people don't ask tough questions like this. The first time when it first came out, I'm like, really? Bet he's not going to hold a press conference about it.
Right.
With his new partners sitting up on a dais, is he?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, goodness. See, the new Kings of Sports thing, I thought it was just about sports washing and all the money funneling in. I didn't know it was specifically local. That's why I saw an alert. The Washington Post people send us alerts. And I saw the alert and I read the headline and I'm like, this is about Saudi Wealth Fund and probably about Live Golf, all the things that are going on. Mm. I didn't realize it was full on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was doing today. Yeah. Virginia Tech fans are very happy with Sam Howell today. Asked what the loudest NFL stadium was that he's played in. He struggled to come up with an answer.
Said Denver, I think.
He said Denver, but he's also played in 10 games, guys.
Right,
and he hasn't been to many loud ones. Philadelphia, Denver, Atlanta doesn't count.
Right.
Trust me on that one.
Right.
Not this past time. New England didn't count this past. I think in the past might have been, but not this past week. They got up a few times, but they had bags on their heads. They're like, we hate Belichick now. So, I don't think he's been around the block long enough. Like, call me after he goes to Arrowhead or Buffalo or something like that and tell me what you think. But then they said, well, what's the loudest you've been to? And he said Virginia Tech. So they were very excited about that.
We have one thing left, and it's that Lane Stadium for a night game is still undefeated.
Play Metallica.
Play Enter Sandman. Everyone starts jumping. It's the one thing that is left for Virginia Tech football.
Still get to do that.
It's the one thing.
You can't take that away from us.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing left for us to cheer for because they're not good at football anymore. So
Ted talks the money. I got to read this first, so I can't talk about it yet. I'll have to wait a little bit. I want to read it first. I don't want to read it blind. I need to know what he said here. Okay. Let's talk about the Pandas, because that's the other big news today, guys. The Pandas, it was O.J. Chase-like coverage worthy. There were helicopters. There were news crews. Everybody was at the zoo, at Dulles Airport, everywhere following the Pandas. I also happen to have a neighbor who works at the National Zoo.
Oh, okay.
And
not with the Pandas, though.
Maybe at some point. She works with all the animals.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
a vet, so she works with all the animals, and her stories are unbelievable.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
She's like, we gave birth to a hippopotamus yesterday.
Sure,
and you're like,
yeah.
that's weird. You know, like, that's really weird. And then,
Look,
then she'll tell you some really grotesque part of it. And you're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
didn't need to know that part. She's like, I bet you didn't know that when a hippopotamus gives birth, this happens.
Right.
And you're like, ew. Yeah. Ew. And then she's like, it's beautiful in its own way. And I'm like, I bet it is.
I'm sure being a vet on the government's dime is a pretty good way to live.
She
Let alone
is,
that one.
she's perfect vet, though, because she loves the animals.
Yeah.
It's not a job.
Yeah,
to
of
her.
course.
She
That's-
loves the animals.
You have to.
So she and the rest of her coworkers have been just out of their distraught.
Yeah.
One, it's the main attraction. Two,
Sure.
we got the pandas. Not everybody's got them. It's been our thing. F you, China, for taking them back. I mean, that's messed up. Like, why would you take that back?
That's
Like,
the agreement.
I get it. We're not getting along.
It's the agreement.
I get it, but come on.
Somebody pointed out today, did you know in the New Mexico Zoo they have their own pandas? Why can't we just get cubs from them and bring them?
Oh, they have pandas?
yeah,
they're
have
allowed
their own,
to keep theirs?
Yeah, they have their own pandas.
Well, they're not going to give us them back.
no, I'm saying they should
They're not gonna
try,
give us
try to
theirs.
breed them and try to give us the cubs.
Well, famously, we tried to breed them with a
Yeah,
couple
no,
of them, and there was
yeah.
this one that was like, I ain't doing it.
Because pandas are the dumbest animals on earth. This is where I was going to lead into when you started going off. But I think pandas are the most overrated animal in the entire world.
If I remember right, Ling Ling and Sing Sing were their names. And they tried to get Ling Ling and Sing Sing to do it.
Nothing to do with
They
each
had
other.
no chemistry. They wanted nothing to do with
Well,
each
no,
other.
pandas-
They wouldn't swipe right on each other. They wouldn't do it.
This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Pandas are inherently lazy to the fact that they don't even like to have sex.
Well,
this is where
but
we're at, and
these
that's why
two-
they're going extinct.
These two were like, and they were like trying to convince these two. They're like, you're the last ones here. There's nothing else. And they're like,
Don't care.
don't care.
Don't care.
Not interested.
That's right.
And they're like, is there panda Viagra? We need to find it.
He's like, I wouldn't bang you if you're the
Yeah,
last panda on Earth.
that's right.
Well, here we are.
Yeah, here we are. See? Last panda on Earth, and I won't do it. So,
All they do is eat and sleep and are dumb.
I
That's what they
remember
are.
those stories back in the day where they were like, they just won't do it. Where like, and people were just so perplexed by the whole
Right.
idea of it. Like, when push comes to shove, you just literally won't have sex with the one other part of your species. You just won't do it.
Right.
Anyway,
That's what I'm saying. Pandas are. There's a reason why they're going extinct, guys.
Yeah. I also think
They just eat. They don't. Like I said, they don't procreate, and they climb trees and fall out of them. They're dumb.
I know, but they're cute and they're
That's
they're
it.
actually
That's the only
they'll eat
reason.
you. By the way, they're not lazy when they want to eat you.
Sure, but that
Like
rarely
they're all
happens.
cute and everything, but we're lucky we haven't had a panda
When is the
accident
last
at any
time
point in
there was a
time.
panda attack in this country?
Because they're in this like habitat they can't get out of. It's like quadruple bulletproof glass. Because as cute and as wonderful the pandas are, if they ever mauled a kid, it'd be over. It'd be over. Anyway, I'm sad. I'm sad today. It's kind of been part of our thing. We had the pandas. First, and for a long time, only. We were the only
Right,
ones.
right.
We had been gifted the pandas. It's like the cherry blossoms were a gift, and it's turned into this beautiful part of the
Of
city.
course. Yeah.
The pandas were a gift.
Right.
It was a gift, Todd. The painting was a gift.
Panda was a gift,
The
Todd.
panda was a gift, Todd. So and then I think everybody's upset because I don't think there's a plan to get new pandas.
So that was my
That's
question.
The problem.
Okay, so that was my question here. Are
We're
we
not
just
getting
done?
new pandas.
There's no panda exchange program anymore?
No, and because
Oh, that is
politically
sad.
everybody's really angry at everybody, we're
man.
not getting any pandas.
Where can we get the pandas from?
China, that's the problem. They're like, you want the pandas? They're like, give us Taiwan. And we're like, no, can't do that. They're like, fine, give us the NBA. We're like, no. We'll think about it, but we can't do it yet.
That's lame.
Yeah, we'll see. Ted might give it to him. Give him the Wizards. We'll get our pandas back.
What money is he using to get the pandas?
Ted's like, got your pandas back. But
Here's the panda exhibit presented by Etihad.
But the new GM is President Xi.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Here's the new panda, and this was last year. Here's the new panda, Brad,
yeah, Brad. This is Bradley.
and Alex.
Yes, and that's George Mirasan.
Panda named
George Mirasan. Yeah, he's very tall.
By the way, speaking of that, I was always shocked that nickname didn't stick with Brad. Remember for a little bit he was the panda, and
The panda.
but it just didn't. It did not resonate.
Because he never did anything that warranted a nickname.
Right, exactly.
You earn nicknames. James Harden is the beard, not only because he has a beard, but because he does crazy things in games.
True. Yeah.
Like, nobody would care about his beard if he scored 10 points a game and came off the bench and played 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody would care. You have to earn a nickname. Brad never got a nickname. His name was Bradley Beal. He never got a nickname. He didn't get a nickname because he didn't deserve a nickname. Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was Panda, and that was
Panda. Yeah,
for like a year, I think.
Remember during the name thing, I wanted Pandas.
I thought that was a good one, and now you'd be dumb if that was their name. Now you know that, right?
No,
you have to acknowledge that.
I think it would be a little. I thought Washington Pandas would have been a great name.
They couldn't have kept the colors though. You would have had to go to black and white.
Red Panda. And
the Washington Red Pandas.
Oh, by the way, that's a thing.
Oh God,
you do. No, they could have just been the Pandas, but then they could have had
alternate jerseys, the Red Pandas.
The Red Pandas.
That would have been so ridiculous.
We'd have white jerseys, and then I think it would be black jerseys with accents of red.
All right, Mr. I hate the boundary stone jerseys, and yet you're peddling Panda jerseys over there.
All right, I want to take a poll of people outside of this area. Do you know what the boundary stones is? Do you know that we had pandas? And I bet you 99% of the people outside this area would know all about that the pandas were here, but would know nothing about what the boundary stones are. And even if they did, and I said, what are they? You would go, I don't know.
I know what they are.
No, you don't.
Yes,
and you
I
did
do.
it. You're making this up.
No, you're lying. No,
Where
no.
did you learn this?
I've known this for years about the boundary stones.
When? Who taught you this? Where'd you learn this?
I learned it by walking by the two that are in Frencher Heights right next to our station every day.
Were you like baked walking around?
No.
What's this crazy stone, man? I've never even seen one of these things.
Man, this is where like you lose me sometimes. It is the original diamond of Washington, D.C.
But nobody knows that.
I think a lot of people know it.
I don't think so.
You don't. That's all.
Nah. No.
Text your wife and ask if she knows what the boundary stones are.
I'm going to do it right now.
Because
I'm going to ask just a real, it's got to be, this is what I'm writing. Do you know what the boundary stones are?
Okay, perfect. Because
Let me ask her. Important question. What if I ask my daughter? She's in high school.
I know multiple people that know what those are. And that's all I'm saying. All it is, though, it's the original diamond of Washington, D.C. Virginia has never removed theirs because remember, it was a perfect diamond at one point.
Yeah.
But then they said it doesn't make sense to take this little bit of land in Virginia across the river.
Does a high schooler count? Would a high schooler be expected to know this?
Not if their father doesn't know what they are.
Considering this is constant, like this is no knowledge, wouldn't a high schooler who's learning things every day know this about their city?
They're not teaching hyper-local DC stuff in school.
Okay, so I ask you again, how do you know about this?
This is something I've
because
known in
they're not
passing.
teaching this. There's no class on boundary stones. There isn't.
I never said there was.
Listen, I'm being turned because too many people are telling me they like those uniforms. I don't, and I don't like them, not because I don't get that there's some kind of weird thing that they've come up with, but like, it's not their colors. It doesn't look like
them. They don't teach your daughter in high school about Ben's Chili Bowl.
But she knows what it is. If I said to her, what's Ben's Chili Bowl, she will,
See?
I would think she would know what that is.
You've never brought your kids there?
We may
It's one of the
have,
most unhealthy things in the city. I know you've never brought your kids there.
We may have walked by it at some point.
Also, you eat Ben's at 2 a.m. after you've hit up all the bars. You never eat Ben's sober.
I don't know.
When have you been to Ben's Chili Bowl when it's light out?
All right, if I ask people outside of this area, do you know what a crab cake is? Did you know that it comes from this area? That a good one would come from this area? Do you think people would know that?
Yes.
Like if you ask people outside this area, where would I get the crab to make a really good crab cake? Do you think they would know the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area is where that happens?
Yes, and this is only because this is a recent addition. Like, I've been to restaurants in Florida that say Maryland crab cake.
Right.
Like, I think it's become synonymous with the area.
Right.
So,
okay.
yes.
So, yes. Now, if I went to a gem store anywhere and said, do you know what a boundary stone is? And these are experts now.
Sure.
Would they know? And if I said, did you know about the D.C. boundary stones? Do you think they'd be lying if they said yes? Because I do.
Maybe.
Yeah. This is what I'm telling you. It's not common knowledge. If I know so much dumb, inane stuff. The fact that I don't know this tells me I'm right.
You're also the same person, though, that never had mambo sauce and didn't get the hype.
I don't get the hype, and I've had it, and I don't think it tastes. But that doesn't mean I don't know what it is.
But it's
I just don't like it.
Thing you're not as involved
I
in.
just don't like it. That's different. That's different. Knowing what it is and liking it are two very different things. I also don't like mayonnaise. Does that make me weird?
That's a lot of people don't like.
Correct. I think a lot of people, if they're being honest, would tell you mumbo sauce isn't good.
I disagree.
It's sweet ketchup.
McDonald's has
not
it.
good.
McDonald's has it now. Enough people like it that McDonald's has it, and you can't argue with me on that one.
McDonald's puts tartar sauce on their sandwiches too.
Which means enough people like it that they decided to launch it in every single one of their stores.
Oh, man. What did they call it too?
What?
They didn't call it mambo sauce. They called it something else.
They spelled it differently because one of the, I forget
right?
which spelling is trademarked by, I think, a restaurant in Chicago or something.
Whatever. You can have the boundary stones. I don't care anymore.
Can I just?
I know that I'm right. I know that I've never had a conversation about this in my life with literally anybody. And I am the most proud person to be from here. I've never even heard of this. And there's no way it was taught to me. And it was not something that was brought up at the dinner table by my dad in between looking at the daily racing form. It was not happened. It never happened. My father used to drive me around D.C. as a child all the time because he was a real estate agent whose job really was he'd bought and flipped property. So we used to drive, and he would manage a lot of rents for people.
Sure.
And so that's what he did for a living. So we drove all over D.C. to look at stuff, look at houses. So I know this city. He has never once in his life ever said that's one of the boundary stones. Never. He pointed out the Washington Monument to me.
That's an easy one.
Is it? I know what Iwo Jima is. I went and saw the Martin Luther King statue that they put up.
I just don't know what to tell you. The fact that I've
never heard of this. I know what the canals are. Because there's historic reference to all of this stuff that's brought up. I know what the locks are. I know what the canals are. I know the history of this town. I've never heard of this.
That's a you problem. But here's my main...
I know that punk music was a big deal here.
Here's my main argument with all of it, that why you should stop getting worked up about it. It's an alternate jersey, not a rebrand.
They don't look like the Wizards.
What do the Wizards look like?
They look like they're from a Renaissance fair in this thing.
What does the Wizards branding look like these days?
I'm with Kuzma because he already said it. And I bet you he's regretting he said it because he probably didn't know that some off-green bronzed jersey that says Wizards in a font from the Renaissance Fair was going to be coming down the pike. Because he's the one that said, the NBA's got to stop doing this. You don't look like your brands anymore. And I'm with Team Kuzma on this. It's ridiculous. The Lakers don't wear neon blue uniforms. What are you talking about?
They're alternates. They're not a full rebrand.
Not everything can be an alternate. Not everything can be an alternate.
Apparently it can be.
Here we go. Important question to my wife. Do you know what the boundary stones are? Response, 3 question marks. I'm going to write back, yes or no. She is going to be, my wife, she never knows that, she's like, that I'm just, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
When I walk from this station to the Cap station in 2 hours, I will take a picture of the 2 that I pass every single day when I walk over here.
I'm sure. Okay, so you've seen when you happened on one.
No, there's a whole map of them.
It's like going to a public park and seeing a sign that this person happened to have lived here for a night. Paul Revere stopped here on his way up to Massachusetts, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it.
It's a whole map of them. There's ones that are in people's front yards because they've never moved them.
If I had one of those in my front yard, I wouldn't move it either.
Well, you are.
There's a lot of historic properties that are in this town because it's Washington, D.C. But you'd have to go up and see the literal sign on the door to know exactly what it is. And you'd be like, oh, my God, that person lived there? The boundary stones. Look, I liked the video they made. It was ridiculous.
Here's all of them. These are all the locations of them. Makes a perfect diamond.
And it is on this, it's the most rudimentary website you've ever seen in your life. It's like someone typed it on their computer in 1976. There's nothing.
Boundarystones.org, bro. They don't get paid for that.
Boundarystones.org. only because the Wizards did this is there any stories about this. But if you this thing, you're like going to the internet and go, tell me about the boundary stones. That's all you would find are these rudimentary Wikipedia-style websites. Nobody knows about this. Washington is not known for this. There's so many things we're known for. This is not one of them.
And they've already used up all
Even
their
the
ideas.
locals don't know what this is.
Argument. I would argue with that 50% of people that are from here know what they are. At least 50%.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, we have no scientific numbers to back that up.
Do the poll and go, be honest. Did you know what this was before the Wizards put the jerseys out? Just be honest. It's anonymous. Be honest. Had you ever heard of this? I'm going 85-15.
Okay.
I am not oblivious. I know way too much inane crap. My kids bring it up constantly of how much crap is rattling around in my head that I spit out at them all the time. I've never heard of this.
I've known about
That's
it for
why
years
it should
and
have been the
years.
Pandas.
Known about it for
My
years
wife
and years.
is refusing to answer a yes or no question.
That's a
Do
no.
you know what the boundary stones are?
That's a no.
It's a no. She's asking. She's like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not only just like,
Heather's
I
not from
don't
here, though,
know
right?
what you're talking about.
She's not from here, though.
She has lived here for 20-something years.
I know, but she's not from here.
She has lived here longer than she lived in California.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
She knows what mumbo sauce is.
Everyone knows what that is
She
now.
doesn't like it either.
Everyone knows what that is now, though. They sell it in stores.
Right. Anyway,
Why do we argue about these jerseys once a week now?
because they're infuriating.
I'm buying one just to spite you.
I know you are. Archer wanted one the other day, and I refused to get it for him. I go, nah, I'm not doing it. He was like, they look good. And I'm like, no. But then he showed me that weird Nets one he liked, and I'm like, I'm out on that too. Like the NBA is appealing to 8-year-olds. I'm out.
Walk in with the Bilal jersey.
Bilal Boundary Stones?
0.
Baloundry Stones. I like that. It's a good name for the team. If they want to change their name to the Boundary, I'm down with that.
That's fine. Yeah,
Better than Wizards.
Anything's better than Wizards. That we can agree on.
I'm sorry to see the Pandas go to the Chinese government. Guys, come on. Can we put some stuff aside here?
So-
this is a nice outreach to our country. We always credit your culture for giving us the pandas. It's world renowned that we have them at the National Zoo. Give us a couple pandas back. What's up with that?
So that was
Come
my
on.
ultimate argument with that. Yes, pandas are overrated, but they are required viewing whenever you go to the zoo
Yes.
and bring in so much money and keep that place alive,
Yes.
essentially, to the point where the pandas are on the zoo logo. The pandas were on fare cards for years and years and years with the Metro. I don't know if they still are because I use Smart Trip, but
it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal
Huge
that the
deal.
pandas are here.
You could make an argument before there were cherry blossoms, more people thought pandas were synonymous with Washington, D.C. before the cherry blossom hype of the last 10, 15
Yes.
years. Because I think the cherry blossoms were big, but it's really blown up in the last, 15 years. Wouldn't you say that?
The cherry blossoms?
Yeah.
The cherry blossoms becoming a tourist thing has blown up. Like
Yeah.
it was always a thing
But
in
not
our
like
area.
this.
Because in everybody knew the neighborhood where the cherry blossoms trees were, and then everybody knew about downtown.
At the basin, yeah.
At the basin. And then it's like Vermont with the leaves.
Yes.
It was like it got discovered that it was this crazy
And social
kind
media
of
blows it up.
natural moment.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And especially on social media because it looks beautiful.
Of course.
And so all of a sudden it becomes this thing.
right.
The boundary stones have never been a thing.
That's correct. I mean, yeah.
Ever. No one's ever being like, we've got to go see the boundary stones. Get on the plane to D.C. now. We got to go do that. I'm going to dump mumbo sauce on them. Stupid.
I'm going to take a picture of both of them that I walk by.
You
every-
should.
every
I'd like
day.
to see what one looks like because I've never seen one.
No, you definitely have. You've driven by it a million times.
Exactly my point. I've driven by it a million times and I don't know what it is. It probably just looks like something that's sitting in the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Much.
I miss the pandas already. I want to talk about Ted and the money, but I got to read this.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about what's going to happen with Michigan next. Very much the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Let's get into what is the biggest story in sports right now, which is what's going to happen to Michigan. And considering the Big Ten hasn't done anything yet, Michigan also hasn't done anything yet. Other than fire the guy Connor Stallions, who is at the heart of.
Which he was, right? Wasn't he already fired?
He was fired.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's the only thing they've done.
Yeah, yeah.
They've disassociated with the guy who was caught on video on a sideline of an opposing team, which is utterly ridiculous. And like that in it, to me, that like when this first came out, And they said he was stealing signs. And they described it as he bought tickets and went to other games and went with an iPhone and sat across from their, sideline and taped their signs. I went, and?
Right. Yep.
All right, so I broke a rule, but and? He's sitting in the crowd at a public event, taping you do signs, and you have a problem with this? Like, grow up. Or how about change your signs?
Yeah, that too.
Now, when I saw the video of him on the Central Michigan sideline with weird glasses on and doing things and clearly should not have been there,
Trying to be incognito.
Yeah.
like the Unabomber.
It's like the worst case of espionage we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah, right.
It's like a Mr. Bean version of James Bond.
Yeah,
it was like beyond stupid. And so...
By the way, did you hear how they were trying to figure out who he was, by the way? They consulted an AI company to make sure that was him.
Oh.
So they dropped all this stupid money to pay a company to make sure by artificial intelligence that he was him.
Oh, to make sure.
Yeah. And the AI company was from Michigan State, which I found just really funny.
Every sport has what I describe as like an age range or kind of a personality trait. Mm-hmm. The NFL is unhinged, okay, which is what I like about it. I am too. I think this is why it's always been so attractive to me.
Ageless chaos.
Ageless chaos, and you have to be on some level a little unhinged to live in it.
Totally.
And that's why I think it works for me so well. I've told this to a lot of people. I'm like, I know you think this is really fun to be part of this, and it really is. But if you don't have the right disposition for this, you're going to be put off by it fast. Like when you get there and just get yelled at for no reason whatsoever, correct, you're going to find out fast that everybody kind of acts this way. And if you don't interact the same way, but I'm also this way, which is great. Because I also at any point in time could just lose it.
Correct.
And it's great. For 10 minutes. And then I'm totally fine again.
Right. Everybody's got their moments.
Correct.
You're like, God, why is he losing his mind? And then you lose your mind on somebody.
Yes.
And that's just how it goes.
And it's 100 people like this.
That's right. Yes.
So you just don't know. That's why it bubbles up constantly. You don't know who's going to lose their mind. The NBA is a bunch of high school girls, okay? They're sophomore high school girls. It's all attention. I don't want to play with you anymore. You're not my friend anymore. I don't like you. Disrespect. Blah blah blah.
Right. It's not that serious. That's always the NBA one now because they're all buddies and no one wants to hurt each other.
It's not that serious.
Then there's Giannis who's like, "F all of you guys.
Yeah.
I want to compete."
Or the other guy's like, "I just don't like hanging out with you anymore, and I want to go somewhere else. You're just not my friends." That's what they are. High school girls. That's what they are. College football is 8-year-olds. They're all 8-year-olds. It's so immature. The whole thing. I think that's what I really like about it too, because you go into this immature world. Mm-hmm. Look at the signs that are made on game day. You would never write this anywhere else. Who would bring signs like that to the goodbye to the Pandas today?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done that.
Lane Kiffin hates Pandas. It would just be some
QR
stupid
code that takes you to the Panda song.
Yeah.
Panda.
Right.
Panda.
Yeah. And then something really dirty. Somebody writes really... what other sport has what happens at these games every day? Nothing.
You mean callers into the Paul Feinbaum show that kill trees?
Kill trees. People literally crying at regular season games. Tennessee loses to Auburn, and there's a guy in full tears. Who knows why? Who knows why?
Fans that have the audacity to ask head coaches in person or over the phone why they suck.
Why do you suck? It's all 8-year-olds. The whole thing is so immature. And that's what I love about this. This is the epitome of it. This guy got caught dressing up as a coach of another team, somehow got himself one of these credentials. That, to me, is
That's
criminal.
one thing, yeah. They haven't said how, have they?
How'd he get it?
Right.
Did he get it using his name? Did he get it using, I would assume, a different name?
Did someone on the staff?
Did someone on the staff hook him up?
Right.
Because when it came out, they were like, some of the people on the CMU staff were from the Michigan staff. I went, uh-oh.
Yep. Right.
So let me get this straight. You let one of your buddies who worked at a different school on your sideline,
right,
and your head coach didn't know about it? Mm-hmm. That's not good.
Correct.
That's really, because it might be as simple as that. Can I get a credential?
Well, he's
that's really.
Well, you know how this works too. We've worked in sports long enough that we all have our connections. And I'm
Right.
sure it was actually, here's what is probably going to be the biggest problem with it, is it was going to be how did he approach it? He probably could have said, hey,
Hey, we're off. I'm going to be at the game.
Yeah, like, hey, or like, hey, we're off. I have somebody that might want to come to your school. They're looking at it. You mind if I just shadow you guys on the sidelines for a game or something? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, you know how this works. How
Right.
it could have been presented as a
very well could
as
have
a,
been
hey,
that.
I know 10 of you guys. You guys mind if I hang with you on the sidelines? I got an off week. And they said, oh, yeah, we love you. Yeah, come on down. We'll hook it up for you. We'll give you some team gear so you'll fit right in. You know, I'm more interested in how did he present it to get himself on the sideline? Because I think that's important here.
That's important.
Because I think somebody...
How did he get there?
Somebody could have effed up, but not done it in the way that they thought it was going to shake out.
Correct. Like, it could have been, and it's possible, that somehow he got on the list, and the people who are in control of these credentials is probably a student.
Probably. I mean, the way the world works these
Yes.
days. Yeah.
It's I mean, a lot of interns...
Who was the basketball school last year that there was a student intern running their PR? Who was one of the Cinderella stories last year?
Oh, God, what was it? The one up in New York, Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah, exactly. It was
He got famous.
Yeah, because it was a student PR.
The guy is a student running PR, and he was getting inundated with requests because they got to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everyone wanted to do all these interviews, and he actually handled himself very well.
No, exactly. But it was like, that could be what this all boils down to again.
It could be. That's what I'm saying. Like, at Central Michigan, do they have a professional person running the credentials? Probably not. It's probably a volunteer student.
Right.
And so was that taken advantage of? Was somebody on the staff, did he know him? And just got him a credential and then didn't think much of it.
Right.
And probably after the fact is like, oh, no. Now is going, oh, really no.
Same thing, though. I'm sure it was presented as, hey, we used to work with this guy if you have any questions on him. You know, like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think
we used to work with this guy.
Right.
It might be as simple, like, it might not be as nefarious as you think. It might just be as simple as that.
That's what I'm saying. Because
That's all it is.
It's
Like,
not like
how did he get there?
Right. Because it's not like he's going to go, hey, I'm coming on the sideline to steal your signs. There's no way he said that.
No, he's not saying that. And he's hanging out with them. It's like they're not playing them.
Right.
So they don't think much of it.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
All of a sudden, though, wait a minute, they're playing Michigan State. No, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden, it doesn't look good anymore.
Right.
So there's that. And then Harbaugh is trying to pretend he knows nothing about this. And then when that doesn't work, they start to leak out the other schools that do similar things, but maybe not to this degree.
Yeah.
And
They're trying to Astros the situation.
they are. They're trying to say
Astros are
everybody
going,
does it.
The Dodgers and Yankees cheat too. And they're
Yeah.
going, not like that,
Not
pal.
like that. We all
The
cheat.
Red Sox, yes. The other two, no.
You are allowed to cheat to a certain degree. You're not allowed to cross the cheating barrier. This is what the Spygate thing was about. Everybody cheats to some degree, but they were cheating to a degree that got people really ticked off. And also, if you are taping someone's practices, you have gone beyond the pale.
That's right.
And
Yep.
that's what this was. You've gone beyond. If you snuck on somebody's sideline and you're taping the signs of the other team, it's now beyond.
That's right.
Now, I've always felt, even with Spygate and even with this, if you are taping something from the stands at a game, a public event, what exactly are you, quote unquote, stealing?
That's true.
They're doing it publicly,
It's a valid question.
right? What are they doing? Or like, that's what I used to get mad about with the Patriots thing. I'm like, you know, if you sat in the TV truck, you would see them do their signs the whole time.
Yeah.
What exactly are you stealing?
Right.
What do you change your signs, dummies? Like, this isn't that hard.
Sure.
So now we've got the Big Ten wants to punish them, but they haven't done it yet. All the Big Ten programs are demanding that they punish them. Michigan's president said, we'll sue you if you do it. Michigan's leaking out other teams to do this stuff. Then it comes out, it's some brother-in-law of Ryan Day,
Right.
who's the one who's an FBI agent or used to be and is spearheading all this, which always goes back to you're all 8 years old because you don't like that your friend just got elected president of the class. You're going to ruin him. And I don't know where this is going to go because I think they have to do something, but I don't know what. And I'm not really sure what they should do because I think it will be, this reminds me now, if they vacate any wins or say they're ineligible right? Which is, I think, that's what they want to hear them say. I think it would be an overreaction.
Right.
Personally. I don't think it's right. Does the Big Ten have the ability to fine Jim Harbaugh? Can they do that?
The fact that he's been so consistent and saying he doesn't know, and the other guy came out and said he also has no recollection of this, they're putting the wheels in place to protect him. So he can just say
Michigan is they're sticking up for him. They're really sticking up for him. Like, they're basically going, don't even try it with us.
Right.
We will sue you. Could the NCAA fine him? I don't think there's a mechanism to do it. Michigan reportedly pulled back a long-term contract offer, probably just to wait and see what happens here.
Right.
Harbaugh described that as not entirely true. Probably just a let's get through this, see where we are.
Well, Harbaugh gets an extension every year now, so...
Because he threatens them every single year. My favorite was a few years ago when they wanted him fired.
Yeah, right.
And then he turned around and made it to the playoff. And, like, I loved the idea of him walking into the room and seeing the same people wanting him fired and him walking up to him and be like, hello, nice to see you again.
Right.
How are you?
Michigan.
How's it going?
Nice to see you.
Michigan man, how are you today? Right. What's going to happen? I think Michigan has to do something.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do anything that prevents them from playing in the playoff, and I don't think they're going to suspend him. It would be funny. They should go the college basketball route. We're going to investigate this and then suspend him for the first 2 games next year.
Yeah, probably. That's probably about the right. And here's the other thing. I don't know if you kind of heard the discourse today, between both callers and hosts all over the place. Everybody's like, don't punish the kids. They didn't do anything wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was like, guys, stop saying that, because now the school is going to use that as the shield of going, we don't want to undermine any of the hard work that all of our kids have done, and they don't deserve this. You're giving them the ammo to say,
if you
don't
punish
do
them, you're not punishing the kids.
Right.
You're punishing the program for acting extremely inappropriately.
Correct. But then they're going to say...
no one is saying J.J. McCarthy is now a criminal.
Right, but they're going to say they deserve to play because they're the ones that have been playing in all these games, and if they go to the playoff, they deserve to play in that game. That's what's going to be said.
Yell and scream at the wind. My prediction is they will not be ineligible to play in the college football playoff. They're going to let it play out. Now, they lose 1 game.
Yeah. They're going to
there will be no there will be no argument.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that they are suddenly the college football playoff people until we hear something about Ohio State, which I'm sure is not the cleanest program of all time. They're rooting for them.
Yep.
Because they just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
And granted, it's also November. The national championship is not for 2 months.
That's right. Yep.
At that point, old news.
Mm-hmm.
All right, be right back. Very much the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. I'd like to credit the Washington Post for asking Ted Leonsis very hard questions about taking money from the Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund as a new investor of monumental sports at large. Mm-hmm. And I want to credit Ted Leonsis for doing an interview about it. I do think he owes his fans and the community an explanation of it, but I do want to credit him for doing so because it's been months. We haven't heard a word about it. We actually didn't know how much money they were taking. Remember, for a while there, they were saying things like they got $4 billion for 5% of it, which is preposterous. That ended up not being true. That was actually better to hear that that's not the case.
Right.
But Rick Mace, who did the story for the Washington Post, wrote this, and I may ask for him to come on tomorrow now that I've seen these written, and I kind of want to talk to him about it. In July, Ted Leonsis became the first U.S. sports owner to take on Middle East investment. With team values skyrocketing and given the rising costs of running a franchise, Leonsis expects others to follow suit. His first quote in the piece is this: "You'll see. I believe other teams and other leagues will all be embracing pension funds, college endowments, university endowments, and sovereign wealth funds as investors as a part of the tapestry of their investment base." I want to ask a serious question off of that. Not that I disagree with him, and nor would I argue with him. He knows. Why are we at a place where that has to happen?
Right.
Why are we at a place where professional sports who have these massive deals with, especially like the NBA or the NFL, massive deals with content outlets and have negotiated these splits with their players' unions, why would you need this kind of investment to move forward? I don't understand. Help me understand that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need this for? Plus, like, no offense, but if someone puts my pension fund in a baseball team, I'm going to be very upset.
Depends which baseball team.
So my follow-up to this is why?
Yep.
Why do you need the money? Now, he says, and I'll read this quote. He says later, he said, most of the teams are either losing money or they're not making a lot.
Barely there, yeah.
I believe him.
Yep.
Like, I believe that. But then I would again say back to you, but you know how much money is coming in from the TV deals, which ends up being negotiated with your players because they get this particular split. What am I missing here?
Yeah, right.
Like, what exactly, the expensive part of it is running the arena and paying the players. I get it, and that's not cheap. I'm not underselling this. But I'm trying to figure out how you need hundreds of millions of dollars to keep moving forward, wherever that money would come from, because the split isn't negotiated in a way that the owners lose. So explain to me what's happening here. And I haven't heard a proper answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
He also, mentioned all these other things that aren't being invested, but the sovereign wealth funds are.
Right.
Let's see. The piece goes on. This is what Rick Mace writes. Owners have routinely taken on limited partners as minority stakeholders, watched their team values climb sharply, but then struggled to find the money to satisfy investors who wanted to cash out. Quote, we all feel great when Forbes comes out and says this is how much you're worth and how much teams are worth. But when the rubber hits the road and it's, well, the company's worth X, write us a check. Most of us in sports, we're not profitable or we're not wildly profitable. So it's a real issue. Okay. Well, then why don't you just pay them what the thing is worth and not rely on Forbes telling you what it's worth?
Sure.
If you just open your books and have a true accounting of the whole thing, listen, I'm no economist here, and I'm not a transactional lawyer on this type of level, but what someone writes in a magazine is not taken as the gospel of what you're written. It wouldn't hold up in a court. Like if you went to, if one of your limited partners wanted to cash out and you were contractually forced to pay him out, which I think is what's going on here, contractually forced after a period of time to pay out whatever the investment is, and he goes or she goes, this is worth X amount because I read it in Forbes. If they went to a court that settles or an arbitrator that settles these things, the judge would not say, well, that's what Forbes says, so that's what it is.
Right.
They would go, open the books, let's see what this is really worth. This is what it's really worth. Sign this NDA. That's the amount of money. Do you still want to sell?
Right.
So again, I will say back to Ted, I don't buy that either.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Forbes says you're worth this doesn't mean you are.
Yep.
Right? Where am I wrong here so far?
No, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I don't know how this works though. That's what I'm getting at here. Like,
I know that if you want to pay somebody out, they have to agree to it at a value of what it is.
yeah,
Right. Okay. Well, just because Forbes says you're worth $1.4 billion doesn't mean you are. You might be on paper and provably worth 1.2.
Right.
Okay. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And you will get that amount. Done.
Yeah.
The Commanders may or may not be worth $6 billion. They are because they sold for that.
That's right.
Are they really worth it? If they were if you just opened up the books and looked at it, are they? I don't know.
Right.
But that's what was paid for. And frankly, like I said this all along from the get-go, I go, I don't know what they're worth, but I know what the magic number is.
Yep.
And again, I'd like to underline the word magic right now. That's the magic number that they wanted to get to. Not Magic Johnson.
That was a Magic Johnson joke.
The magic number that they wanted to get to was $6 billion because it mattered to all the other owners in the NFL to sell a landmark franchise in a major market for, quote, $6 billion.
Yeah.
So they did it. Is it worth that? I don't know. I look at these things like they're priceless pieces of art. Who knows?
Yeah.
What's a Monet worth? I don't know. It's whatever someone will pay for it. What are the Dallas Cowboys worth? I don't know. It's whatever somebody would pay for it.
Correct.
In this case, though, when he says, but when we're selling, right, a piece of it, or we're buying out a limited partner, that's different. The limited partner cannot at that point, who's already bought in, say, I know that it's worth this. If we sold the whole thing, it might be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. This is what it's worth right now. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So, again, not being an economist or a lawyer, I take a little bit of issue with that, and I do think it's a workaround for stupid people. Forbes said it costs this. Well, so? I could have told you that the Commanders were only worth the same amount the Broncos were last year.
Sure.
That's not what they sold for.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know. Let's see. Let's get to the nitty-gritty part of this whole thing now, which is you took money from a sovereign wealth fund.
That's right.
Right? Let's see. He described this. One, he started with this. He's very pushing back on that they have any influence.
Right.
Which is poppycock.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the one.
It's another one where I go, someone gives you $200 million and they don't care what you do?
Right.
Are you kidding?
And also,
since when?
This is the most ridiculous part of it because there is a literal line in there. You'll have to find it for me that, one of the countries handing out money supports Hamas.
Yes. Right. Yeah, we're going to Qatar.
Right. So it's like, Are you telling me they're not going to care if one of your employees comes out and says how terrible that organization is?
Yes.
So, yes, Ted, you can tell me they're not actually having their hands in your business, but this is the whole problem with the whole sports washing thing. They do. Because if you say something that they don't like, they can pull their investment back if they want. It was a very glossed over thing by him, and that was actually my least favorite part about the article was him just going, "Oh, they don't control anything." Yeah,
of course they do.
They're standing over your shoulder now. They are.
Of course they do.
Right.
I don't know what is it. It's so you got them to agree to give you $200 million for a percentage of the operation. No strings attached. That's just it.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah, right.
Since when?
Yeah, when does that happen?
Since when is that even remotely true?
Right.
The story goes on to say, in 2020, a pair of sports-specific private equity firms were approved by U.S. leagues, the NFL being an exception, they haven't taken money yet, to begin making minor investments in teams with some restrictions. No more than 5 deals per league, no more than 20% stakes in the team, and the firms can only be, as they put it, passive investors. Arctos Sports Partners and Dial Capital Partners quickly established funds and have purchased minority stakes in more than a dozen U.S. franchises, including the Dodgers, Red Sox, and Warriors. And this is what Ted said about it. To owners, it was really great. When you have a limited partner as an individual, they feel like they're an owner. They want in the owner's box. They want to know what the budget for the team is, who our coach is going to be. But these funds, they're administratively not allowed any of those things. They're just investors. Which is interesting that he's like, I hate my minority partners because they want to know what's going on around here. Oh, so annoying.
Stop asking questions, guys.
Oh, you only own 10% of this team, and you want to know why Wes Unseld Jr. is still the coach?
That's legitimate.
How
That's
dare
a legitimate
you?
question.
It is. That's why I guess I can't be a minority owner. One, I don't have the money, and two, I like asking questions.
Right.
While they provided an instant influx of cash to a handful of franchises, Leonsis said the funds were too small to help every team that might be interested. As the partner at his own investment firm, he knew there was much more untapped money to be had. Quote, it's not like the spigot opened with those funds. Along comes the spigot. Leonsis was working with Middle Eastern interests before many American team owners. Monumental partner with the UAE-based Etihad Airlines, which is part of the lounge, your signage up.
Yep.
Peter Bondra apparently traveled to Abu Dhabi. He was coaching a hockey school there. I don't have a problem with anything like that. I mean, you want to spread the word of sports.
Spread the game, whatever, sure.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
2021, Leonsis presented to the NBA's Advisory Finance Committee at the annual owners meeting, pointing out how much money the league had closed itself off from. For example, the 10 largest sovereign wealth funds in the world control more than $8.5 trillion in assets. Norway is the world's largest with $1.47 trillion. And some sovereign wealth funds are controlled by states, including Alaska, Hawaii, and West Virginia. The sovereign wealth funds could be better investors for teams, Leonsis said, than private equity or limited partners. Says a limited partner is a quote. A limited partner expects to get their money back and a return in a 5 to 7 year period. A sovereign wealth fund invests directly. They have no time horizon. You don't know that. And they want to invest and keep it over a long, long period of time. You don't know that.
Right.
At any point in time, they can change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to tell the Qatari government that we thought we had a deal?
Right.
Good luck with that. I wish you a lot of luck with that position that you're taking.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you may be writing a book in the voice of Phil Mickelson one day, calling them scary MFers. When they, suddenly want this back at a certain price.
Yep. Not only that, it's almost like you're taking a loan out while your hockey team is about to lose their biggest star ever. Your basketball team has been floundering for ever. Like, I'm just asking the question here, too. When are you going to make up for that money? Because I don't see it on the horizon anytime soon either.
Let me see. As a fan, does this matter to me where the money came from to buy the teams? That's a very interesting question.
Like I said, yes, it's yes and no. Don't tell me that
yes and no.
Don't tell me that you're not that's not.
Chelsea was owned by a Russian oligarch.
Yeah, right.
Directly.
Right.
And then that changed when Russia invaded Ukraine and the UK was like, I'm sorry, you got to go.
But also,
like,
don't tell me that they don't have any influence when you and I both know sitting here how this works, especially in sports media, really, honestly. Like, more than any other media. It's worse in sports media than the real media, so to speak, where there are interests. There are things you don't speak upon because there's sponsors or whatever.
If you work for the team, it's a problem. If you don't work for the team, it still can be a problem.
That's right. Exactly.
They can take a dislike to you and your coverage pretty quickly, and they can pull your credential for any reason they want.
Right. Or limit your access to the point where it doesn't matter for you to even cover the team anymore. You know,
right? Even if you have a big platform, they could squeeze you out and say this person's not good for us.
Right? Exactly. Or no, we won't. They're not available today. You can't talk to X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, they'll talk to everyone else.
Right? They control that because they can't control what you write, but if they don't like what you write, they can control who you talk to.
That's right.
And when they're available to you.
So when you say I don't like this entity supporting this entity, all of a sudden, you're not ever going to talk to X player or coach or whatever.
This segment today, I'm going to assume that Bilal's not available to come on my show today. Maybe next week. Who knows?
The other team, they're never available. So
never. I don't know why. I say glowing things about them constantly for years, and just not available. Sorry. And this isn't helping, though, today.
Right.
Let's see. In 2022, NBA team owners unanimously approved amending league rules capping investments at 20% and ensuring the funds could only be passive partners. This summer, Leonsis became the first NBA or NHL owner to take advantage of those rules. He sold a 5% stake of Monumental Sports to the Qatar Investment Authority for $200 million. So that was confusing at first. They had the numbers out, and they were like 5%, $4.5 billion. And I'm like, what? And it's 5% of $4.5 billion. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Because initially I'm like, they bought 5% for $4.5 billion and they're a passive investor. No, they're not. Because they just valued something at $90 billion that isn't worth that. It's worth $4.5 billion. This makes a lot more sense. For Leonsis, it's the ideal business relationship, he said. And he said the fund will have no influence on the teams, which I don't believe. Here's what Ted said. I don't view QIA as partners. I view them as investors. And I'm aligned with their investment philosophy, which is we believe in you, Ted, and Monumental Management as managers. We're your fiduciary to all your partners to do the right things in the right way, and we are not involved. I think you really have to suspend belief to believe that.
Yeah, right.
I just think you do. Like, did they tell him that to get in the door? Sure, maybe. Mm-hmm. Will it remain that way? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I'm taking their word on it. I'm taking the money of a sovereign wealth fund of an authoritarian regime at face value.
Right.
That this is, and I know it's just the Washington Wizards and Capitals, which in the grand scheme of things is not the most important things in the world. But the idea of the people behind where this money came from are to be trusted as, we love you, Ted. We think you're going to do a wonderful job. We'll never exert any influence. It's just an investment for us. Is ridiculous. Like, utterly ridiculous to say that out loud. And he has to know that.
Not to mention, take 2 steps back and zoom out. You're letting that entity buy into 2 teams in the nation's capital. Like, think about the optics of that, too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The capital of America, 2 of the major 4 sports teams now are now tied to that
Correct.
entity. Like, I think this is one of the few times where you actually have to zoom out and look at it from a national level.
Yes.
You let that happen in the nation's capital?
Yes.
Like I said, it's all uncomfortable. It's
uncomfortable. That's the best way to put it. Like, could this all be true right now, that they're totally passive investors and they're just looking at it as a great investment because sports is a great investment? Because to the earlier point of, well, the money just keeps going up and up and up. And it's true, it does. I'm predicting there's a crash at some point.
Sure.
There's too many things that are pointing to this can't continue this way.
Right.
The San Diego Padres are taking out $50 million loans because they suddenly can't pay the payroll because they're not going to make one of those 3 postseason runs. And apparently by not making it, it made them fall short of the cash. Now they're selling off the players. So now we know that these teams can't afford to literally do anything they want. The narrative was they could, which is what we yelled about with the Orioles. You guys could do whatever you want. Well, apparently not anything. There's a difference, obviously, chasm between what's being spent, but you can't just do anything that you want. Right. We're learning that one now. All these RSNs are going bankrupt. The rights are going down. The NBA is shifting a lot of resources into trying to figure out a way to get people engaged in earlier parts of their season because their ratings are going down. So they're forcing players. They're going, you guys got to start playing more, which is a total other issue to me, has always been a professionalism issue. It's not about, like, I can't believe they let them get away with it for as long as they did. They're trying to, Adam Silver took a lot of blame for the All-Star game and how non-competitive it is and how they're going to try to fix that and make that more competitive. They put this in-season tournament in because they're trying to figure out a way to gin up ratings because they need to do something. Rights deals are coming up. The rights deals, they want to have them explode at some point in time. There's a chasm here.
Yep. Right.
These things are going up in value, but some of the stuff is going down or cratering. There is a reckoning that is happening in big-time sports, maybe not for the NFL, which is why they said we don't want this money for now. Wisely have said they don't want this because they don't want this influence exerted on them. And the idea that it isn't exerted on them is utterly crazy ridiculous. I don't care how many times you tell me they're passive investors who want nothing to do with the day-to-day. BS. Like, or maybe it is right now.
Right.
But you're telling me that you're never going to hear from them again. They just sent you a $200 million check and they're like, Ted, you do a great job. Let us know when we can have some of our money back.
Right.
No.
Right.
I own a piece of stock in the Packers. Okay. If they let me raise my hand, it's worth nothing.
Yeah, right.
If they let me, I paid $200 for it. If they let me raise my hand and ask questions, I would.
Yeah.
The Qatari government is interested. Give me a break. On Adam Silver, he said they are not anticipating any sovereign wealth funds owning a team in its whole for the, quote, foreseeable future. But we've baby stepped it already here because we've allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to say what could ever happen, but there's no contemplation right now. He said, it's very important to us, putting aside sovereign wealth funds, that individuals are in a position to control our teams, be responsible to the fans, be responsible to the partners and the players. Then Rick Mace wisely brings up what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now.
Yep.
The country of Qatar has shown literal public support for Hamas. It's a terrorist organization. I don't want to get into a political discussion about it, but that is what they are, and they have supported it, right?
Yep.
In the past, I'm sure they're in support of it now. Of course, some of our elected leaders are saying a lot of different things, openly because they're supposed to at this point. What are our American interests? What are we going to do? Who are we for? Who are we against? Which side are we on? And, this is one of the elected leaders, Jack Bergman, who's a Republican from Michigan, openly questioned this deal and said there's no question that the Qataris are intending to leverage their pending 5% stake in the Washington Wizards to beef up their already considerable influence operation in our nation's capital. It's hard not to see that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But they took the money.
Yep.
I don't know. And so it finally gets around to, you're gonna be asked, are you sports washing?
Yes.
And he said, when I heard, this is Ted, when I heard, you're sports washing, I said, well, that's going to be pretty hard to do when we don't talk about QIA and QIA can't talk about their investment in our teams. That's not the point of it.
It's not the point at all. It's
again, this is the third one where I've heard where I go, Ted, that's not the point at all.
Right.
And I know you know that. But you're trying to spin me into believing, well, we don't talk to them. They don't talk about us. Yeah, well, when something like this happens, like what's going on in the Middle East right now, are you what here? Are you silenced? Can Denny Avdia talk about this now?
Right, exactly. That's the type of things that I'm alluding to, is that your employees now and people around the team now have to watch what they say, because you can tell me they're not involved, but everybody watches their back when it comes to your partners. And then it becomes, is it worth me saying something that could ruffle feathers for the giant deal like that? And it's going to go, no, because I like my job. That's what it always boils down to.
The last quote, which she brought up, Josh Harris, said this. Josh is one of the greatest investors, wealthiest humans on the planet, and a great guy, and he couldn't afford to write a check to buy the Commanders. That, in a nutshell, is why this is really good thing for leagues. You want other pools of money unlocked to help you buy teams and to help you do things. Which I will go back to the original point of. If you're saying that you can't afford to have these teams, where's the shortfall?
Yeah.
Like, I'm confused by this. Like, you're telling me you need this money from these outside wealth funds because you don't have the money to purchase the things on your own. All right. But, like, why can't you afford to sustain them once you're already there?
Yeah.
Isn't the model already in place to do so? And you're telling me that you can't. And then you said, well, here's Josh Harris. He doesn't have $6 billion to write a check. He's right. There are very, very few humans that have that kind of money to do this. But that's why he took on all of these partners to do it. And none of them are from a sovereign wealth fund. I don't know. I don't like any of it. I don't like any of it. And I'm not going to go to Caps games or anything like that, but you know, I think we needed some explanations, and I think they've fallen short here. To me. Like, and I don't know what he was going to say to make me feel differently about it, because I don't think there is anything to say differently about it. He clearly has thought through all these questions and how he's going to explain them. None of his answers, though, really explain the crux of why it has to be them.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Like you even said yourself, we could take money from other places, but we're taking it from them.
Right.
You don't have to. You do get to choose who your investors are here.
I do think, no, there was one blurb in there that the NBA is only letting a certain amount of investors.
Yes.
So once those are used.
Once those are out.
Then you can't grab the money.
And now, right, and now you're out of money. But then I would go back to him and say, why are you out of money?
Yeah, no, for sure.
You own an NBA team and an NHL team.
Right.
There is a salary cap. There's negotiated rates for what the players make. Explain to me why your business needs an influx of cash.
It almost answers its own question of it. You not only own an NBA and an NHL team, you own a very successful WNBA team. You own all of the district gaming stuff. You own other entities. It is almost like, have you bitten off more than you could chew? And this is why you need to go this route?
I've been saying this for a while. I've been like, hey, you know, like there's only so much you can do.
And he wants a baseball team, too. He said that out loud literally a month ago.
Where do you get the money to do that?
Right.
Well, you know, there's plenty of countries that have a lot of money. You know this. I don't know. I don't feel any better about it. Not that I thought I would.
No, like I said, it makes you feel weird. I think that's the best way to describe this. Makes you feel icky, I think is what I describe it as.
All right.